Hello. This is the sermon for the ninth Sunday of Pentecost, so a little bit late. And the text is the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 11, verses 1 to 3 and 8 to 16. So today's passage from the letter to the Hebrews begins with a famous definition of faith. Now, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Another translation renders it thus: faith gives substance to our hopes and convinces us of realities we do not see. This verse can even be translated to say that faith is the foundation or bedrock of hope. On this understanding, faith is the source of hope. If we have faith, it is possible for us to have hope. Conversely, without faith, there is no hope. And if we grant the importance of hope, this means that faith is very important, which means that it is important to understand what is meant by faith. Nowadays, we tend to understand faith to be an act of intellection. That is, we have faith, or believe, that certain thoughts that we have truthfully represent the way that things actually are. The translation of the creeds in our prayer books lends itself to an intellectual understanding of faith, where we say, I believe in God, and so on. And this understanding of faith can be found in the letter to the Hebrews, which in one place says, without faith it is impossible to please God, for whoever would approach him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. For the most part, however, in the New Testament, faith is understood not as an act of the intellect, but of the will. To have faith is to put one's trust in something, or more often, someone. It is an expression of commitment or loyalty. Understood this way, faith is fundamentally relational. And of course, the authors of the New Testament, all in one way or another, encourage their hearers to put their faith in God the Father or in Jesus. And to have faith in one is to have faith in the other. Now, it is important to pause here to correct a possible misunderstanding, which is that it is possible to interpret this understanding of faith to mean that those who do not have faith in God or in Jesus have no grounds for hope, which is an interpretation popular among some Christians. But a moment's thought shows that this is certainly not the case. In reality, there are many other legitimate objects of faith besides God or Jesus that can serve as sources of hope. Many people who are not Christian, for instance, nevertheless have hope, a hope which inspires them to do good because they have faith that the world can be a better place, that sort of thing. Conversely, there are far too many Christians who claim to have faith in Jesus, but whose lives show little to no sign of manifesting that faith in acts of love, compassion, generosity, or forgiveness. Nevertheless, from a Christian perspective, it is best to put our faith in God above all others, because we trust that, ultimately, God will not disappoint, but rather fulfill our hopes, as it says in today's passage from the letter to the Hebrews, by faith Abraham received power of procreation because he considered him, that is, God, faithful who had promised. That is, God is worthy of our trust, of our loyalty, because God is faithful, keeping the promises they make. Now, the letter to the Hebrews emphasizes how having faith in God means hoping for that which is not immediately apparent, that which cannot be perceived in this material world. For one, in today's passage it says, by faith we understand that the worlds were prepared by the word of God, so that what is seen was made from things that are not visible. Likewise, according to the author of Hebrews, faith guided Abraham and Sarah to trust that God would guide them to a home, the nature of which is heavenly rather than earthly. For he, Abraham, looked forward to the city that has foundations, whose architect and builder is God. Or again it says, but as it is, they, that is, those who died in faith, desire a better country, that is, a heavenly one. And the notion that we should hope for that which is beyond ordinary appearances is echoed by the Apostle Paul in his letter to the Romans, where he writes, concerning the Christian hope for future glory, now hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopes for what is seen? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. Now, Paul's understanding of hope here may suggest that hope is something fundamentally passive, an attitude rather than a course of action. But for the author of the letter to the Hebrews, however, hope that is grounded in faith leads to action. By faith, Abraham obeyed when he was called to set out for a place that he was to receive as an inheritance. And he set out, not knowing where he was going. By faith, he stayed for a time in the land he had been promised, as in a foreign land, living in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. Faith, and the hope that it leads to, is fundamentally an active response to the faithfulness of the God who calls us to live by faith as Abraham and Sarah did. Our hope in an unseen reality is meant to inspire us to do God's will in the ordinary visible world of which we are a part. A Christian church is fundamentally a community whose members collectively put their trust in God as God is revealed in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, and who respond to the faithfulness of God manifested in Jesus with acts of love, compassion, generosity, and forgiveness. God, of course, is the unseen reality in which we are called to put our hope. Fortunately, God has not left us without guidance when it comes to understanding how we are to put our faith and hope in God into action. We have the example of God's people, the teachings of the prophets, and the testimony to Jesus in the scriptures. We have the sacraments, in which we have faith that God invisibly interacts with the material world. We have the witness of the saints and of exemplary Christians who have gone before us, and we have each other. All these are objects of faith for us. And perhaps what is most likely to have the greatest impact on our day-to-day lives is the faith we are called to have in each other. We are to share with each other stories of the ways in which we have seen God at work in the world, and of the ways in which we have done God's work in the world. We are to bear each other's burdens. We are to pray for each other. And the more we do this, the more we support and uphold each other in love, the more we will become a community embodying God's kingdom, a community of love, generosity, and forgiveness.